Hello Internet. Today we are going to be exploring another recipe from How to Bake by Paul Hollywood, and this week we are doing focaccia, the olive oil rich bread of my dreams. I absolutely love focaccia. Frankly, I'm pretty intimidated by this recipe since it's such a wet dough and I've never made it in my life, but I'm kind of sick of not being able to have it at home. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started talking about supplies. So first thing that you're gonna need is a plastic square-ish container between 2 to 3 liters. This is about 2.3 liters. It's just like a Rubbermaid plastic Tupperware container. This is kind of the biggest container of this shape that I had. It must be in a rectangular square-ish container because it's gonna be kind of plopped out, and we're not going to do a whole lot of shaping so we don't knock any air out of the bread. So it has to be in this container to keep its shape. And this recipe makes 2 focaccia loaves. So I've got 2 different quarter-size baking sheets covered in parchment paper, and we're going to oil this a little bit later. And then we've got 500 grams of bread flour. We have got 360 milliliters of cool water. Total, you're going to need about 140 milliliters of olive oil, but to start for the main recipe, we're going to use 40. And then you need 10 grams of instant yeast and 10 grams of salt. I've just got kosher salt here. And then, like I said, this is a super oil-rich loaf of bread, so I've got tons and tons of olive oil. And then I'm also going to be using a bench scraper. All right, let's get started. I've never made this in my life, and I'm a little bit intimidated by it. So we're gonna be doing this together. So the first part of the recipe says to lightly oil your plastic container that you're gonna be proving the dough in. I've already lightly oiled this, so we're gonna set it aside. And the recipe also states that it's probably a really great idea to use a mixer, but he suggests in this book to do it by hand so that you can get a feel for the dough, and since I've never made this before, we're gonna do it that way as well. So you're gonna put your 500 grams of bread flour into your mixing bowl, and then add the salt to one side and the yeast to the other. And then you're gonna add your 40 milliliters of olive oil and 3/4 of the water. And then you're just gonna use your fingers and you're gonna start mixing in circles. And you want to make sure that you get all of the flour off the sides of your bowl. And it looks like I've got quite a bit on the bottom here, so I'm gonna add a little bit more water. And the goal here is to have a pretty soft dough. It's gonna be quite a bit more wet than like your standard, just regular old bread. So it's gonna be quite sticky. Okay, so I've got a rough dough here. That looks pretty good. So we're gonna start kneading. I'm gonna move my board here, and we're gonna coat the countertop in olive oil so we can get kneading. Okay, so I've got some oil on my surface. I'm just gonna kind of move it around here. And this recipe is no stranger to olive oil, so I'm really not concerned about overdoing it here. I'm just gonna grab the dough with my hands. They're covered in olive oil anyway. I have no risk of sticking. And we're just gonna start kneading for 5 to 10 minutes. So immediately I can see exactly why somebody would want to do this in a mixer. This is such a mess. But Paul says to just keep working through it, and you will eventually get to a point where you've got kind of soft dough with a little bit of a skin, so you don't have this like sticky, wet kind of mess of dough. And the book specifically states that this is supposed to be a wet, sticky dough. That's exactly what I have, and to avoid adding more flour. So we're just gonna keep trusting the process here, because this is insane. I'm gonna take the stickiest hand in the world and enlist the help of my handy dandy bench scraper, because I think that might make my life a little bit easier. This seems like it would be kind of fun for you to do with like kids if they really like getting their hands messy. It might be fun to enlist the help of your kids or your nieces, your nephews, or the people you babysit. Anybody really who likes getting a little bit messy and having fun with food, because this is, I can see how this would be fun for kids. I've seen people do this on the Great British Baking Show, where if they have a particularly wet dough, they just grab it and slam it down as hard as they can. And it seems to be a pretty effective kneading technique, so. Okay, so we've reached a point where I've been kneading for quite a while, so I feel like I don't think it's gonna change much from how it is right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put it in to prove, and we're gonna cross our fingers that everything goes well. So I'm just gonna peel it off the countertop and plop it into my oiled container. Try to get as much off my bench scraper as I can. Okay, so there we are in our oiled container. We're gonna leave this to prove for about an hour until it's doubled in size. So it should completely fill the container and then be a little bit higher. And then after it's proved, we're gonna come back to it and we're gonna put it in the 2 different baking trays to prove yet again. And we're gonna oil it up and then we're gonna bake it. So we'll see you back here after this is proved. Okay, so our dough has doubled in size for sure. It's nice and bubbly. So we're gonna go ahead and shape it and put it on our baking trays for their second rise. Okay, we're gonna do more olive oil on the work surface. And then we're gonna carefully tip this out. Just gonna put my hand under it so that it doesn't fall and knock all the air out. Okay, this is nerve-wracking to say the least. Okay, so I'm also going to drizzle some oil on my baking parchment here. Okay, so I've got my 2 baking sheets ready to go with parchment and olive oil. Okay, so I'm gonna divide it in half and I'm gonna go like the middle way instead of the long way. And that looks about half. I'm just gonna use my bench scraper to kind of, I should have oiled this. That is a lesson learned. Take a little bit off the work surface here and just try to get a little oil here. Okay, and then we're gonna cut there. I'm just gonna scoot them apart a little bit. Okay, and then stretch each piece out to a flat, even piece and place it on the baking tray. Okay, so I'm just gonna gently stretch it out a little bit. trying to be so delicate because there's so much beautiful air in here and I really don't want to mess with that. These are gonna be so misshapen and weird. That's okay. That's okay. Actually, what I should do is, before I completely destroy this, and I think I'm about to, we're gonna just place it in the dish that it is, in the tray that it is gonna be baked in. And then my goal here is to kind of get it all the way to the edges without completely destroying the air bubbles in here. And I feel like I'm really failing. So there's one. I'm gonna take the second one and the same thing. I'm gonna try to just gently move it. This one looks a little bit less like I destroyed it and manhandled it. So I'm just gonna gently pull at the edges here. Okay, so it's not gorgeous, I'm not gonna lie, but it's in there. So, okay, we've got our focaccia spread out a little bit to meet the available space of the pans. So next, we are gonna put each tray into a clean plastic bag and leave it to proof for about an hour. We want the dough to double in size and to spring back quickly if you prod it lightly with your finger. So we're gonna do that. And then just toward the end of that, we're gonna preheat our oven to 220 degrees Celsius. And let's hope and pray that this didn't completely collapse when I manhandled it because it's so soft. We'll see you back later. Okay, so we are risen. We are looking really bubbly, which is great. Okay, so the next step, it's good to have some flaky sea salt and then some oregano for this last step, just to finish it off. I'm sure you can get by without it, but you know. Okay, so make deep dimples in the focaccia with your fingers. So we're gonna go for it. And it's sticking. I probably should have oiled it beforehand. Just gonna go for it because, you know, the more little divots for olive oil, the better, I think. So, okay, we went for it. Next is drizzle each focaccia with olive oil and sprinkle with flaky sea salt and oregano. I'm not really sure how much to do. It doesn't really say. I'm just gonna kind of, you know, go with my gut here. Okay, let's hope that that's correct. And then I've got some Maldon sea salt flakes, and we're just gonna have a little sprinkle. A little more because I do love this stuff and I feel like it is great. And then we're gonna do a little oregano. All right, that looks pretty good to me. So we are going to go ahead and put this in the oven, which is already preheated to 425 for 15 minutes, and we'll see you back. All right, so the focaccia is out of the oven. It is fully cooked. We've got a hollow sound when you tap the base. I took it out, I drizzled it with even more olive oil per the instructions, and then we are gonna let it cool on a wire rack. It looks fantastic. It's a little bit short. I'm not sure if that is something that I did, if it's supposed to come out like that. The picture in the book has like a really... the picture in the book is a completely different shape than mine, and it said to spread it out in the entire pan, so that's what I did. I'm not sure if this is normal, if this is... I'm not actually sure at all how it's supposed to look. I'm going to let this cool for just a few minutes just to get the immediate heat off of it, and then we will cut it open and give it a try. Alright, let's go ahead and cut into this and give it a taste test. It's really crispy. It's got good air in it. I wonder if I knocked a lot of air out of it, unfortunately, when I was originally handling it. I kind of suspected that that was the case. I'm going to do some research on how to avoid that, because this is actually a lot more easy than I expected it to be. A lot less intimidating than I expected it to be, so I definitely do want to give it another go. It is just a little bit flat. I am going to do some research, watch some videos, maybe see if he has a video of how to do it somewhere. But in the meantime, let's give it a try. Okay. I think I need to use more expensive olive oil for sure. It tastes great. The flaky salt on top really adds to it. It needs it for sure. The bread itself, I don't know if it's salty enough for my particular focaccia tastes, but overall, not bad. I will definitely be devouring both of these at some point. I do really like it. I'm gonna get kind of a nicer olive oil to do stuff like this, since it is so olive oil forward. I just kind of use like the Safeway Organics brand. I'm not sure that it lends a lot of flavor, though I definitely in the future would like to try something that's a little bit more floral, something that's really good, like as a finishing oil would be great for this. But overall, not bad for a first try. I really want to try it again just to see if I can make sure to be a little bit more delicate with it. Maybe see if there are some techniques online so that I don't completely obliterate it when I pick it up after splitting it up. But yeah, not bad. And that was focaccia. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post a new video. Have a great day, everybody.